In Unit 6, we are going to cover the curriculum of the Christian Karate. We're going to cover the rank books, some resources that you and your students will have in the future, and also the character quality program. On page 112, we go a little bit into the Christian Karate Association rank book. Now, I must say that the rank book is going to be one of your most important tools that you have in your Christian Karate ministry. This is your rank book here, and you are going through this rank book as part of your team leader course. You'll be going through this yellow belt book, but your students will be going through the same book as well, and your students will receive a copy of this book, and each of them will work through each of the units. And as you've seen by now, there's checkoff pages and there's accountability spots that your students will do to be accountable to you in the future for their rank and for their techniques. Now, this tool has become probably one of the most important assets that you will have as a team leader. Early on in the Christian Karate, we didn't really have a rank book. We had an idea for ranks. I brought this on from my teachings when I was a student. We really didn't have any guidelines for the rank. Most of the time what would happen is our instructor would say, okay, it's time for you to test, and we didn't really know what we were testing on. And I asked him one day, I said, well, what are we going to test on? He says, well, you're going to test on anything that I have ever taught you from now to when you started training. And that was really challenging, honestly. There was no... we had to guess, really. It was kind of just, well, we might do that, or we might do that. You know, what did he teach me 2 years ago? Am I going to remember the drills? And most of the time, he'd probably pull up something that I did years ago, or a kata that maybe I learned at a park one time at an event, or something like that. And it was really frustrating, honestly. It was really frustrating to not have a really solid idea of what we were supposed to test on. So early on in the Christian Karate, we wrote up the requirements. We looked at associations around the world, specifically Shotokan associations, and we looked at what their guidelines were. And most of the time they would have simple guidelines as far as here are the ranks and maybe some katas that were associated with each rank. A few of them went as far as to say, here's the katas and maybe a few basic drills that might be required. And I looked at those and I said, you know, that's a start, but still, me personally, I would prefer to have it clearly written up what my expectations were as a student so that I know what to work on, so I could be focused on what I wanted to work on. And so we took those and we analyzed them, and we decided that we wanted to make sure that our standards were right at the top for any Shotokan association in the world. So we matched that up with the kata list. We wrote up the basics, the combinations that we wanted to, the sparring, and over the course of time we developed what we called belt sheets. Early on in the Christian Karate, we had belt sheets, and this belt sheet was basically just a sheet of paper that listed out what we wanted as the standard for those ranks. Now, that was great. Those belt sheets really helped the students and the schools to stay focused. Over the course of time, we found that it was good to kind of have some checkoff sheets in those belt sheets. And so we made the checkoff sheets in with the belt sheets, and it helped especially as schools started growing and there was a lot of people trying to organize everybody and take the burden off of the instructor. Okay, who did this and who did that? And those things kind of got confusing for the instructor, so we added those checkoff sheets. Over the course of time, as well as we would have a local school that I would be teaching, and we would grow some instructors. They would go to a new location, maybe they moved and they would start a school, somebody else would start a school, and we found after 1 or 2 generations down that sometimes the technique had changed. Some of the teachings that were taught originally in the original school, they kind of changed over the course of instructors, and it wasn't necessarily a voluntary change. It wasn't something that the students said, this is what we're going to change. It was more so that they forgot, or they didn't quite train something enough and they were a little unsure, and then they taught it to someone else and they were a little unsure, and as it went down the road we found variations were happening. So we decided what we needed to do as an association is create a really good standard that will eliminate this problem. One of the things that we want to do is remember to stay true to our focus. What is our goal here? And it is a ministry first. We want to make sure that we're concentrating on evangelism and discipleship. And what we want to do with anything else is reduce any possible problems or distractions if possible. And having a disorganized ranking system and a lot of variations was starting to cause some distraction from the focus of the ministry. So we decided what we need to do is put all of this together into a book and video format. This is the book and video format that you're going through currently for this team leader course, and this is what over the course of years we have put together. Now, as you get into your school and your students have this, you're going to find that this does become a very, very important asset for you in your school. It takes the burden off of you as a team leader to focus on the ministry aspect of it and not as much on the technique. Your students will be receiving the same technical instruction that you're receiving with the videos in the book, and then you can know for sure that, okay, yes, they're getting those correct teachings. Over the course of time, you will get better and better and better at teaching, but you always can fall back onto these resources. So make sure that you spend a lot of time looking at this resource. Get to know this resource. Kind of get to know where the things are, the different pages. If you know that you're going to be working on, say, a combination, it would be really good, especially for the first several books, to get to know it really well. Another resource that we created was a kata resource. One of the things that's really fun is learning a new kata. Students really enjoy learning a new kata. And sometimes as they learn a kata, they forget pieces of it and they want to have a reference. So we have a reference of videos. We also have a reference of the kata books, and these kata books show the side and the front view of each kata. So we have these available as well as tools and resources. We also, at the time of this video, we do have an app that we have developed that shows the character quality of the month, and it also has some katas in it. That is in development right now. We only have it for currently the Android system, but hopefully very soon we'll have it for other systems as well. And if you're watching this video later on, we might have already had that. So check online for anything as far as what we currently have that might have changed from this video series. Again, I can't stress enough that this is going to become one of your best resources. One of the questions that might happen in your schools is this, do I have to get a book? And the reason I want to spend so much time on this subject is so that you understand the importance that, yes, every student needs to have a book. There will be times where people will say, well, can I just borrow a book or copy a book or things of that sort? And to make things really simple, the simple answer is no. Everybody needs to have their own book, and that way it can be personalized. All of the questions in here, the checkoffs, will be personalized to that student. And so make sure that you use this resource and you get to know this resource well, and it will help out your school a lot in the future when it comes to organization of the karate technique. On page 114, we have a diagram that shows the ranks and the katas that are required. Now in the future, students are going to get more and more excited about the kata. The kata in some way is kind of the pinnacle of the rank. It's kind of like we work on all of these basics and the combinations and such, and to put that all together, it is the kata. And you'll see over the course of time that students will get really interested in the katas and really excited about those. So we put together a chart here, this is available to the students online as well, that shows them kind of a path, a guide of what katas are required at each rank. Now if you look at this chart, you'll notice that there are 2 katas per rank. And starting at the blue black belt, we have an optional kata. In the beginning, we have 2 katas that are required, really to fill in the core structure of the kata system and how it works. And then later on, we have a set of optional ones. And I want to spend a few moments and let you know how we came up with this. One thing that I really think is important as you grow in an association and as you become an instructor is to kind of have some history and understand how we got to where we're at. For me, it's important to know how did we get to these so that when I'm talking to other students, I can be confident that yes, this is a good curriculum, this is set up well, and it works well with the association and with the student. So I want to just kind of give you a little history of this chart. In the karate world, as I've mentioned before, there's really no standardization. There are some associations that are a little more organized than others, but in the world of Shotokan, or in the world of karate as well, there's not a standard list of katas as far as where they go on each rank. Now, it is accepted in the Shotokan world that there are either 25 or 26 or 27 katas, or 28 depending on your association, but it's generally accepted there are about 25 katas in the Shotokan world that are accepted as the Shotokan list. Now, within the different associations, some associations choose a list of katas in different orders than other associations. Some of them only use half of the kata list. And as we were developing this list, we wanted to make sure that we were accepted anywhere in the world as far as Shotokan karate. Again, as I had mentioned before, I would rather it be where you go and train with somebody and you have a first degree black belt and they say, wow, you're only a first degree black belt. I thought you might be a second or a third. And so as we considered these things, we looked at the kata list and we looked as much as possible to other big associations in the Shotokan world, and we tried to get their kata lists. And we got a lot of them together, and we looked at them, and we noticed that there were a few things that were similar to all of them. Some of the katas that they had picked for especially the black belt area were similar. And so we made sure that our curriculum was similar to that. Now, early on in our karate association, one thing that we did is we had all of these katas that were on the optional side be mandatory. And so for a long time we had 2 katas that were mandatory for each rank. And we found that that worked pretty well for most students up to about blue or green. And then starting at about green up till black, it was almost too much for some students. Now, for some students, it was fine. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed the challenge. They enjoyed the hard work. But for a set of other students, it was really challenging and frustrating. And to try something different for a little bit in a few schools, we decided to only have 1 kata per rank and just have 1 kata without any other optional katas. And again, as the students went through there, we found similar things. Starting at about green belt, it was fine for some students, but for other students, they needed more. It was kind of they felt lacking in that, only having 1 kata. So over the course of time, we came up with what we currently have now and have been using for a very long time, and it's worked really well, is where we have the required katas. And this is the list that is really widely accepted in the Shotokan world as far as the katas that need to have happened at certain ranks up through black belt especially. And then we added those other katas as optional katas. And what you're going to find with those optional katas is most of the time, the majority of the students will try them out. They'll at least try them, see how they feel, see how they work, maybe do it as a extra training kata just for the fun of it. But then if they realize they don't have to specifically test on it, it kind of relieves that pressure. Now, you're going to have some students that say, I really want to test on both katas, and that's great. let them do that, let them train hard. But then the other students that maybe are struggling a little bit, they can do the optional katas if they want to, but then just concentrate on the kata list that is required. So that is it in a nutshell. These katas and these ranks will be things that you'll be exploring in the future, but I wanted to give you this background so that you understand how this works. So in the future, when your students look at this and they say, why does it say optional there? What do I have to do? Do I have to, how does that work? And then you can explain to them in however much detail is appropriate at that time for the student, the ranking system and how it works with the required and one optional, and then let them know that they can do that optional one if they want to when the time comes. So take a quick look at this. You don't need to memorize it or anything of that sort. There's lots of resources to be able to look at this, but just have a basic idea and a roadmap of the katas and the ranks so that you can answer the questions that your students might have. On page 120, we have an introduction into the character qualities. Now, the character qualities are really the foundation of the Christian karate curriculum in regards to spiritual development. Now remember, our focus of the Christian karate is evangelism and discipleship. Now the character qualities will fall under the discipleship umbrella of what we're trying to accomplish. We have a total of 24 character qualities that we've chosen, and we use those character qualities in association with a kata. And in addition to that, we do one character quality a month as an association. So as the student progresses through the ranks, they're going to learn a kata and then also a character quality. The first one that you're going to learn, which hopefully you already have at this point in the Team Leader video series, is endurance versus giving up. And we've attached that to the kata of Takioko Shodan. In addition to that, we do have a monthly character quality for the entire association. We found that as the students are progressing through rank, they could be working on one of 24 different character qualities, and to help keep everyone unified, especially in the local school, if we wanted to quote a character quality, we needed to have one per month and then just have it on a rotation. You can find the rotation on the website, but that will be the one that you will quote in class. That'll be the one that when you start off with your class and you say, okay, character quality of the month, and everyone will recite that character quality. I would encourage you to make sure that you memorize these character qualities and that you spend time making sure you understand the character quality. Don't just stick it into your short-term memory and forget it later on. This is something that you need to have and work on it all of the time. I would also encourage you to think of ways that you can incorporate this more into your school. Now we've provided some tools and things online. You can look through the resources for the character qualities, but you can go beyond that. There are schools that do a lot of things in regards to character qualities, and this, as we said, is the core for discipleship. This is the tool that you can use to help grow spiritually with your students and with yourself. Now remember, one of the nice things about being an instructor and having these character qualities is it automatically kind of gives you permission to dig into your students' lives, especially when it comes to the character quality of the month. We have found that for some reason the students kind of understand that you're going to ask them some personal questions in regards to that character quality of the month. So look ahead and see what the next few months are. And sometimes you might find that you're working with a student or a group of people, and you know there's a certain issue that they're dealing with, but you might kind of not know how to bring it up. Sometimes that happens. And a really easy way to do is to look through the character qualities and see which character quality would apply specifically to what they're trying to do. And then you can gently say, I notice you might be struggling in the area of, and use that character quality. And that will give you that door, that opening to where you can counsel or help that student grow spiritually. Now, you are in the beginning phases of your Christian Karate Walk. You've gone through the yellow belt material when you finish the team leader course, and you'll have learned 2 character qualities. I would like to personally challenge you to, as quickly as possible, depending on your schedule and life things that are going on, to memorize all 24. Use this as a challenge from me to you. See how soon you can memorize all 24 of those character qualities. And if you are able to memorize those quickly, or within the first 6 months, especially the first 3 months, but from 3 to 6 months, if you have all 24 character qualities memorized, please send me a note. Send me an email and let me know. And I would love to hear that. I would love to see that, yes, you guys are taking this seriously and that you were able to memorize all 24 of those. So take some time, understand the character quality system, look at the resources, look at the devotionals, and ask God to give you the wisdom on how to apply these and to use these efficiently in your Christian Karate ministries. This is the end of Unit 6. Hopefully you learned some good things about the curriculum and some opportunities you might have in the future for that. Go ahead and look through the homework and the sample test questions and get those questions and answers posted on the forum this week.